Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Ramadan Kareem. My name is Jaser, and I was asked by the Shura Council to talk about a little bit of the importance of Ramadan and some things maybe to think of during this special Ramadan that we're all going through, inshallah. So most of what I'm saying, it's actually coming from a khutbah given by Sheikh Jamal that I really enjoyed personally. Anything that is good that comes from this is from Sheikh Jamal and of course Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and anything that's bad comes from me. But anyway, to get to the topic, I wanted to discuss this concept of love, and basically give some examples on how we can deepen our bonds with one another while we're all stuck in quarantine together. And so I remember Sheikh Jamal, he was kind of giving this example of a story. You have this one brother who lives in Europe and another man who lives in California or the US. And these men were very good friends for 20 plus years, a very, very long time. And so they had separated, life happened, and, they kind of just separated, hadn't talked to each other for a very long time. And so the man from Europe calls the man in the US and says, Assalamu alaikum. And the man in the US says, Wa alaikum assalam ya Sa'id. And so the name of the person in Europe, his name was Sa'id. So the idea here is like, wow, like what type of relationship, how strong of a relationship or friendship that must have been, where the man in the US recognized the other person right away just based on two words, Assalamu alaikum. So one concept that's touched here, and it really impacted me, was this idea that we may think friendship is someone we text every day, someone we tell about like all of our secrets, all of our troubles, stuff like that, someone you're consistently seeing or talking to, and you might think that, hey, if I'm not talking with that person anymore, it's not really a friendship, or you might think that's something wrong. But the value or the lesson you learn from this story is that a good, strong friendship is actually not necessarily that. It's good, obviously, to have that type of relationship, but the concept here is that a good, strongly seated friendship or love for one another is something so vast that even if you don't see that person for years, you could pick up right where you left off when you meet up with them again, for example. So now that we've kind of set that example, how do we really enforce that? How do we get to that level of friendship? And this kind of ties to also not to get off topic from Ramadan, but it kind of ties, of course, is that there are 7 categories of people who will be under the shade of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's throne on the Day of Judgment. May we all be there. Ameen, on the Day of Judgment. And one of those 7 categories is loving someone or having a friendship for the sake of Allah. So loving each other for the sake of Allah. So what does that really mean, right? Well, when you think of a friendship, or starting a friendship, you might think that, hey, it's easy to become friends with this guy, or I want to become friends with this person because of maybe common interests. You both like, soccer, you both like this certain type of food, whatever it may be. There's some common ground there to kind of start that friendship, versus this concept of loving someone for the sake of Allah. It is what it says. It doesn't matter, what this person is. It doesn't matter what they like necessarily. They may not have common interests, but you want to build this friendship. You want to love this person. You want to be friends with this person solely for the purpose that you love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that you want to please Allah, that this person is a Muslim, and you want to build that friendship with them for the sake of Allah. So moving on, again, how do we actually establish, how do we build that friendship? And there's some things we can do that even while in quarantine, that could kind of strengthen those bonds. One of them being, I think is pretty cool, especially in Ramadan, is eating together. And I know that might sound silly, but of course, who else are you going to eat with? But I mean, if you were planning on maybe going up to your room or going somewhere else while it was iftar time, maybe think about sitting down with whoever you're quarantining with, whether it's your spouse, your parents, your siblings, whomever they may be. Just eating with them actually builds bonds, because naturally, of course, you're going to talk about things, stuff like that. You might learn things about each other. You might share things more than you already are around the dinner table. And so just eating together. And one thing before even getting to that, I forgot to mention it, and it's kind of a silly point, but it is important, is just having that intention of having that intention of loving someone for the sake of Allah, really kind of defining that in your head and what that means. You may meet someone, maybe you don't really socialize with him that well, or her that well, but again, you're going to try to make that effort and try to love that person, try to deepen that bond for what? For the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's kind of the core of what we're trying to get to. So anyway, one point, right, how you can do that is by just eating together. Second point is worshiping together. So of course, in Ramadan, we have Tarawih. We can, that's a very special prayer or exclusive prayer to Ramadan that we pray. So just reading Quran together, maybe you're trying to get that juz knocked out, once a day, reading together, praying together, Tarawih, whether maybe just the 5 prayers, maybe the sunan, whatever it may be, making maybe tasbih together, whatever it is, worshiping together, that's another way to kind of build those bonds and kind of getting started on that path towards like a deepening your friendship. And then, so again, we talked about eating together, worshiping together, and the third one I'd like to end on is doing activities together. And I know that's kind of general, but specifically in the context of doing something positive or doing something good. So usually, if we weren't like in this COVID situation, I would say something like volunteering with someone. So like whether it's at a food bank or maybe you're putting together care packages for the homeless, stuff like that. Just volunteering together, doing something positive, doing something good, that really also helps strengthen your bond. And there's specialized ways. In COVID, there's still lots of ways to help, whether it's donating, of course, but just building care packages for nurses, or still, donating food to your local feed banks. Whatever you can do, like that's a positive thing. Some type of project to keep yourselves busy with, but also like to share in accomplishing together. That's a huge way of, again, deepening your bonds, deepening your love for one another, and hopefully, inshallah, getting to that ultimate goal of accomplishing that concept of loving each other for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So again, just to recap what we talked about today was, we want to achieve this goal, this concept of love, of establishing this deep-rooted, strong relationship of loving one another for the sake of Allah. And the way to do that is first to make that intention, really try to define in your head what that means. And then number 2 is to eat together, just eat together, worship together, and the third one was volunteer together, or kind of work on a project / activity that's positive to the world, or that impacts other folks. And that was the topic I wanted to discuss today. Jazakumullah khair. Thank you so much for listening, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you and make this Ramadan one of the most special and beneficial ones for you. Jazakumullah khair.